Israel's parliament is expected to hold a final vote today on a controversial bill that could weaken the country's Supreme Court.
Yeah, the change is part of a broader judicial overhaul by the far-right government. It has sparked months of protest and triggered a massive political crisis. NBC News foreign correspondent Raf Sanchez joins us now from Jerusalem with more on this. Raf, you can see some activity behind you. What are the protests like today?
Well, Ellison, good morning. Yeah, as you can see, thousands of protesters have gathered here in front of Israel's parliament. They are braving the scorching summer heat in what is really a last-ditch effort to try to stop this legislation going through. Protesters were gathered here in Jerusalem all weekend. Some of them marched from Tel Aviv, a march of 4 days. And this is a culmination of a 7-month protest that is unlike anything Israel has ever seen in its history. But the scale of the opposition isn't measured just in the number of people here on the street. Major businesses have also closed their doors today in protest at this legislation, and thousands of Israeli military reservists have said they will not show up for duty if this bill goes through, because they signed up to serve in the military of a democracy, and they worry this country may no longer be a democracy if this legislation passes. Guys.
So Raf, help us understand what exactly this bill would mean for the Supreme Court there, and right now, is it expected to pass?
Yeah, Joe, so it's a little bit technical, but the bill that is right this moment working its way through the Israeli parliament is the first part of this much bigger judicial overhaul. And it basically says that the Supreme Court can no longer rule government actions unreasonable. Now, just to give you an example of this, earlier this year, the Supreme Court said it was unreasonable when Prime Minister Netanyahu tried to appoint a man with a series of tax fraud convictions to a senior position in the Israeli cabinet. Netanyahu says it is not for the unelected judges of the Supreme Court to hold back the elected government of Israel. He says that power needs to be stripped back. Right now, it looks like Netanyahu and his right-wing and religious allies inside of the parliament have the votes. There is still some talk that there could be a last-minute compromise, but if no deal emerges, Netanyahu says he has the votes to get this through. Guys.
Raf, we know Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was actually discharged from the hospital this morning after he had a pacemaker fitted. Is he going to be in Parliament for this vote?
Yeah, Alison, it's pretty dramatic. Netanyahu coming almost straight from the hospital to the parliament chamber behind me. He is there. He is with both his allies and his opponents as this voting begins. Like I said, there is some talk. Maybe Israel's president, who's a largely ceremonial figure, might be able to broker some kind of compromise, but Netanyahu is working the floor despite having that surgery over the weekend. It was his second trip to the hospital in a week. Netanyahu is 73 years old. He is generally thought to be in good health, but some questions about his health given those 2 hospital visits. Right now, he is determined to stay on the floor, and as far as we know, it looks like the final vote expected sometime around 11 a.m. Eastern. Guys.
Raf, thank you.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.